Hey, good morning. My name is Jason here with my buddy Lem again at Lemness, and looking forward to a chat about God in the silence.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Jason gave a talk a couple of weeks ago, and he sent me the link, and it's posted on his website. And we'll add the link at the bottom in the comments so that you can check out the talk. But I had a couple of questions for you, Jason,
yeah,
about your talk, and I absolutely loved it. It's a quick talk; it's only like 10 minutes, but man, you pack in a lot of information, and you pack in a lot of uh, well, you ask questions, but just a lot of good information. And
thanks.
one of the things that really stood out to me was the fact that we live in a culture of finding our value in what we do. I mean, that's the way that we tell people about ourselves. When we want to find out about people, we ask them
Right,
what they do. So in a culture of doing and finding our value in time, because you also talked about time and
absolutely.
you know, how much time we don't have because we fill our lives with so much that the importance of silence and quiet to reconnect
Yeah,
with ourselves, with God, with our soul, and just kind of some of those um just some of those principles. But one of the things that stood out to me, I think the thing that stood out to me the most, was at around 3 minutes and 40 seconds where you were talking about Elijah being so tired and weary and physically, I think he was tired, but then also spiritually, he was struggling. Like you said, kill
absolutely,
me, God. That
absolutely.
was his prayer.
Yeah,
And so, and then you shared in the scriptures that he got sustenance, he got food and water, and from that point on, once he got like physical sustenance,
right,
once he got enough time to rest and think,
right,
he was able to go 40 days, and then you
right.
made that great connection with Moses. But tell me more about your thoughts on that our physical need and the spiritual connection with that need. Just whatever your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's obvious in the scriptures that, like you said, Elijah he's frustrated, he's struggling, he wants to give up, and
Hmm.
it's at that moment that God meets him there. So I think that's interesting. Maybe there's something for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
So that physical need and tired could be a good thing.
yeah, right. God, in
You
this
know what I'm
point,
saying?
God used it. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we're humans and our bodies, we require food and we require sustenance. Also require rest. And
Hmm.
I think in this little example, in two lines of this passage in First Kings, uh,
Hmm.
you know, Elijah has to slow down and rest. You know what I mean? Like the crazy thing is he had just come from in First Kings 18, he had this like amazing encounter with God and the prophets of Baal, right? God shows up and
Right.
it's insane what happens, you know? So, he's had this incredible picture of who God is and what he's done. And then the next chapter, he's like, God, what's going on? I'm ready to give up, you know? So then he goes out into the desert and he's essentially gonna die, wants to die. And God says,
Right.
no, I'm going to provide you this food. I'm going to give you food and water, and from there,
Right.
this is what you need to move forward. And then he
You know,
travels
I
40
wonder.
days.
I wonder what that connection like as you're describing that. I think about like um Moses leading the children of Israel out of Egypt.
Yep,
They walk across the water,
yep,
and I mean that has to be such a
totally.
huge spiritual high.
Right,
And then again the desert, just
right,
like you were talking
right.
about. I wonder the pattern, right?
Yeah,
Spiritual high, God doing something
yeah,
cool, desert.
totally. This is,
And then need, and then when Israel got to the Jordan River,
yep,
they doubted again. You know
right.
what I'm saying? And God did the same exact thing. There's
Yeah.
this pattern.
Oh, totally. I mean, if you want to, I don't know, if you want to summarize the Old Testament in one word, you could say remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
at least God's message to his people in one word for throughout the entire Old Testament, remember. Like, don't forget
yeah,
who I am. Remember where we've gone. Even looking at Jesus's life and the pattern, you know what I mean? There's also the 40 days connection there. Jesus goes into the wilderness, baptized,
right,
and then boom, temptation, So there is something to be said for this, spiritual high encounter with God, and then our humanity and the sin happens, and then maybe there's this silent space, desert space that needs to happen to what needs to happen is reconnection and remembering. And I think a way
right,
that reconnection and remembering happens when we slow down, because that's
right.
how do you remember, um, how do you remember the great stories that you've had with your wife, the trips you've traveled
Mm-hmm.
on? It's when you're sitting
Mm-hmm.
down, eating a meal at dinner, and talking about what's happened.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not this fast-paced thing. You have to slow down to remember. And so I think there's a connection there in this story in the scripture.
No, absolutely, and that's the point that you make at the end.
Right.
Like we need to cultivate the space
Right.
for silence and for quiet,
Yeah.
and in the silence and in the stillness is where God shows up, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the remembering meditation. So tell us, like, help me, like, give me some ways that I can cultivate silence and quiet and stillness to reconnect with myself, to reconnect with God, to reconnect with my wife. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Absolutely.
The meditation and the silence. How do I cultivate that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I mean, I'm trying to think how would I answer that, but
yeah, no, it's good, dude. It's
you're on the spot, man. You gave the talk.
yeah. No, that's why I didn't give any practical applications in the talk. uh, well, it's a bit about that is there. I think there's something to be said for implication, the difference between implications and applications. So
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
that's what I was trying in this talk. When I ended, I wanted to, hey, okay, what's the implication? What do I have to
Of
change?
not,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Instead of,
yeah.
hey, here's how you do it. But I do
Right,
think
right,
there is some wisdom and definitely I have some ideas on here's how you do it. Um,
right,
one of the hardest things to do is to be quiet. Really,
right.
this world of fast-paced technology is to go be still and be quiet. So one way that I
We almost have to schedule it.
you do I do and no, that's what I was gonna say. I
And
do
that's what I do. I was
yeah
gonna say, like, I have to schedule
yeah.
time to do it.
Yeah, so this journey for me started way back when in trying to discover what Sabbath looks like. And so for me, it began with one day, I'm going to pick a Friday for me in the morning,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
and I'm not going to put a time on it, but I do want to get up and go in the morning. So I would get up and go in the morning, and then go to a coffee shop, a cafe, someplace that was different. It wasn't work, it wasn't home. It was a
Yeah,
different space,
yeah,
but a third space, if you will.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Sat down, put in, put my headphones in, and put
Right.
on some, contemplative music if it's album
Yeah.
or if it's, what I did is I started listening to the same song for this day.
Rhythm,
Yeah, yeah, finding this rhythm.
rhythm,
Yeah, exactly.
and that sameness and
Yep,
that rhythm
yep,
translates into again some of the core physical and even
right,
spiritual, emotional, psychological needs.
right. And there's a great website, a great tool called sacredspace.ie.
Yeah.
And that's where I started because I wanted to cultivate a quiet heart. I wanted to look at what stillness looked like in my life, but um, I was struggling with how to do that and didn't want to just, do I just sit and wait and be still? I mean, there's times to do that, but so what I did is I went to sacredspace.ie. It's a guided meditative prayer thing, and then played the same song, which was Samuel Barber's Adagio for Strings. The song
Hmm.
about 7, 8 minutes, and
Yeah.
that's where I
Yeah.
started.
Right.
So
Right.
that was practical for me. It's Friday morning, 8 o'clock. I'm in Houston, Texas, so I'm going to Taft and throwing on the Sacred Space and putting on Samuel Barber's Adagio for Strings. Let the prayers guide me, and just try to take some deep breaths and,
Right.
and be still and have that introspective moment. Um, but I think also too, it doesn't have to be that. I mean, that's one way to do it. And like you said, there is an importance of rhythm.
Right.
Obviously, you look at the story of God and creation. Everything. There's 6 days work, one day rest. So I wanted
Sure.
to write that pattern as I'm developing cultivating a quiet heart. I had to develop
Right.
that pattern for my story. So I did that. But I think
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
it can happen in the car. It can happen in crowded rooms. You know what I mean? I think it's just,
You infuse these practices and these disciplines just in everyday life stuff.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. The next lunch appointment you're driving to, when you're on your way to work in the morning, just turn off
Yeah.
the radio. Don't
Yeah.
turn the radio
Yeah.
on. Take some deep
Right.
breaths and maybe just say, God, would you be here with me as I drive?
Yeah. And be attentive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome, man.
yeah.
Well, when's your next talk?
My my next talk is going to be actually August 21st.
Awesome.
That's yeah. So I'm actually going to be speaking on a Sunday morning, which will be pretty crazy, but it's good.
So a lot longer,
A
more than
lot
10
longer,
minutes.
right? Well, I'm going to have 45 minutes. Not 45 minutes. Well,
Oh,
that's what our
jeez.
preacher uses now, and it was.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
always I give him a hard time all the time because he always goes long.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he told me I had 10 minutes, and the challenge was 10 minutes for me to speak, and I'm like, dude, I think I
Right.
did it at like 9:34.
Yeah, yeah. Right on,
It
right
can't be
on.
done. So I won't be speaking for
Well,
45 minutes, but it'll be longer.
right on. You guys should check out the talk, and then if you have any questions for Jason, just leave it in the comments right
Yes,
down here.
absolutely.
Cool. This is Lem Usita. Check me out at identityspecialist.net. Hit me up on Twitter at Lemness.
And at Jasen Ashdown saying farewell. Thanks, Lem.
Yes, sir. Take care.
See ya.
Thanks.